Hello, fellow fantasy sports fans. Welcome to MFSN The Hub's Fantasy Baseball Strategy Show. Thursdays at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. I'm Dr. Dan Ratner, and I'm here as always with Casey, Vlad to the Bone, Scheinvold, and Ross the Boss.
Hello, everybody. It's Ross the Boss, and I'm live from Lipstick City, the home of the LA Dodgers and LA Angels, which makes no sense. I don't know why they called them LA because they're in Anaheim.
Why couldn't they just be the Anaheim Angels?
Because
of course, they used to be the California Angels.
Los Angeles. It's more prestige, more power.
There you go.
And they get it for free because the people in California are so dumb they let them do it, but it's not my problem. But we're here to talk baseball. I'm excited.
Ross starting off with a blistering insult to several people, as he likes to do.
Yep.
All right, guys, let's talk about headlines, because as we know,
headlines
things change all the time. What are the key things that you want to talk about that's new information in the last week for our viewers?
New information in the last week?
Well,
injuries, performance changes. I want to hear about it.
Well, today the Reds decided to take Alexis Diaz and send him to the minors because he's horrible. And for some reason, Dr. Dan Ratner had him on his fantasy team last year and tried to trade him to me. I said, the guy's horrible.
Yeah, it's true. Go ahead.
It is true. And I try to warn you. I said, the guy's horrible. I said, the guy, he's not his brother. So there you go. I mean, the news is that Aaron Judge is the best player in their league right now. And
oh my gosh, his numbers are insane.
427 average.
Yeah, 427.
3 for 3 last night with a home run.
It's May 1st, and Casey Scheinfeld even said, Ross, he's going to bat over 400 in the month of April, and he did.
I don't know if I said that.
I love that. Ross always, he gives us lots of credit. He says all kinds of things that are true or not true, all the time, for good or bad. So does he have any chance of chasing that 400 mark?
Williams,
look,
Casey,
I think regression to the mean is inevitable. It doesn't, but to the mean for him is still over a 300 average. So, look, would I love to see it as a Yankee fan and as a baseball fan in general, to see somebody there in September or October where every at bat comes on just because
I really want to
chase that mark. But no, I would still anticipate him dropping down somewhere into the 330 to 350 range by the end of the season, but I'm going to enjoy it while it lasts.
And in fantasy leagues, what kind of overpayment would you make for somebody like Aaron Judge? I mean, he's just this much of an impact player.
I mean, you have to overpay like crazy. I don't think he's
first-round picks and your future siblings.
Oh well, if you got draft picks and future siblings,
yeah.
Sure.
He might be. Ironically, he might be easier to get in a dynasty league than he would be in a draft league.
Why is that, Casey?
Because he's over 30 years old. What is he? 33 now? 32? And there's a lot of people like me who are ageists, and so if you threw out, Jackson Churio and a lot of these young guys at him, who the owner could then roster for another decade, you might be able to get him, because some people like to sell high on older players. But I mean, yeah, he's the best player in regular baseball. He's the best player in fantasy baseball. He's just, I don't know if I had him, I'm trying to imagine the package it would take to get him. And it would have to be like 3 quality bats and at least 1 ace and probably a top closer.
There's no disagreement.
But then the question does become, how much do you handicap your team? I mean, this is a strategy show. So like when we talk about what needs to happen, you can get Aaron Judge. You pretty much can if you're willing to pay enough. You just have to pay a huge amount.
Sure.
Then the question is, how much does it wreck your team?
Well, I guess it's the same as every question in psychology, right, Dan? The answer is it depends, right?
Yep. Well,
what if he has Aaron Judge and then like nobody else, and he has these glaring holes all over the field, and you were smart enough to draft some breakout players like a Pete Crow-Armstrong or somebody like that, where your 3rd, 4th, and 5th outfielders are magnificent, and you got some aces before they were aces. So you have Hunter Brown, and you have Cole Ragans or some of these other guys who are just incredible pitchers, Garrett Whitlock, Garrett Crochet. I'm sorry, Garrett Crochet.
Don't call him Crockett. He gets mad. Call him Crochet.
Yeah, if you have a lot of depth where you can take the hit. But
well, let me also add this, and I'm sure you'll agree with this, Casey. But like, it's also if you're playing in a shallower league, it's easier to do this. Go ahead and make a 4-for-1 deal.
Right.
You got deeper benches, you got deeper waiver wire.
I mean, honestly, you could have, if I had Aaron Judge, you could offer me, Juan Soto, anything short of Bobby Witt, and chances are I'm going to say no. It would almost have to include somebody like that in the deal. And then it's a question of whether it's worth the cost, because you're hurting yourself at so many other spots just to get this guy.
Yep. I'm going to shift gears. This is a different strategy question altogether, but our cover boy is Pete Crow-Armstrong. Ross, you were the highest on him of the three of us. We were all fairly high on him, but he's a big time prospect. And I could ask you whether he's going to keep this up or not, but what I want to ask you is a different question, which is how long into the season does it have to be before it changes in terms of his full value? Can you get full value for Pete Crow-Armstrong as the number 11 player in Yahoo at this point in the season, or do you have to wait longer?
I would say All-Star break. I say if he keeps this up and is still in the top 20 fantasy value, I would say, especially his age for a fantasy league, I think his value's gone up a lot this season. I mean, he's stealing bases, he's hitting for average, and he has some pop. So, and Casey mentioned on Tuesday, he's one of the best defensive players in the league.
He might be the best defensive outfielder in the league.
Yeah,
this kid is really good, and he's young. I mean, he's a young kid. I actually had dinner last night with a friend of mine who actually coached him in Little League. Wow. And he was telling me, like, back then, like, he still talks to his dad and his mom, and he's still friendly with the family.
Well, but I'm sure at that age he was identifiable as that much better than everybody else.
He even said,
I'm going to stay in touch with them.
Yeah, well, I was.
The kid who picked his nose in left field. I don't know if he stays in touch with his family anymore.
Bad News Bears sitting in right field picking his nose and batting ninth. I'm sure he stood out a little bit. But yeah, I mean, he is definitely a player in Chicago, and we all know in Chicago when it gets summertime and the wind's going out, the home runs could get flying out of there. So
for me, if it's going to help league, I'm probably trying to maximize his value now.
I agree.
Not because I don't think he's going to be a superstar. He very well, his defense alone will keep him in the lineup forever, right? They're not going to take that away. That gives him the longest leash in history. But this is what did he bat last year? 237. He's always been fast, but he's been a high strikeout, low average guy with decent pop. And chances are at some point in this season, the pitchers are going to start figuring him out, or he's going to regress a little bit. So I would probably try to maximize his value now in a redraft league. In a dynasty league, I'm going to obviously charge a mammoth amount if somebody wants him. But, he is a very young player, and young players tend to be streaky and tend to go through prolonged cold streaks. We've never seen him deal with adversity before. Is he one who can, is he the Albert Pujols type who's more of a machine and just figures out where the hole in his swing is and corrects it? Or is he one who tries like Jared Kelenic? We've seen what's happened to him, who never recovered from his poor starts. But yeah, he's a great player. He's going to be an all-star, but if I'm in a redraft league, I'm maximizing value. I'm looking at some of those, like Yordan Alvarez, who's underperforming, and seeing if I can flip him for somebody like that, because over the course of the year, you're still going to trust Alvarez more to recover than for PCA, as they call him, to stay where he is.
Yeah. You're talking about all-stars, guys. Today, I don't know if you saw in Chicago, Paul Skeens was pitching, gave up 3 home runs, first time ever in his career he's ever done that. Do you think we kind of overvalued him beginning of the year, guys, or do you think that
I don't think we overvalued him looking at his last year and what everybody said about his stuff and how it played out. But I think, again, like I just said, we're going to see every pitcher gets thumped for a three or four game stretch. And how does he adjust? Does he just try to throw harder, or does he actually take a step back and figure out what he's doing?
I will say that I think there was a little bit of overvaluing him because he's so young in his career. I'll speak for myself anyway. I wasn't entirely factoring in the fact that these big league hitters are going to adjust. The teams are going to adjust. They're going to scout him. They're going to see what's happening. And so he's an all-world talent, and hopefully he's going to get right back to what he was doing. And that's actually something that can happen on the other end. Sometimes people then adjust too far the other way because he's going to adjust to the hitters. So it's constant adjustments. I still think he's going to be great, but yeah, I mean, they're catching up to him. They're figuring certain things out. I actually think if he can get past this next level of adjustments, he gets even better because then it's even more.
He has to get out of Pittsburgh to be a better player. There's something goes with Pittsburgh. It's just I don't know what it is.
Their pitchers do have a tendency to leave Pittsburgh and become aces.
Yeah. There's this guy that plays for the Yankees that did okay after.
Yeah, Garrett Cole did okay for himself.
He did okay.
Remember Doug Drabeck back in the day?
Yeah,
like
Doug Drabeck.
I mean, you have to go back to the 70s when
the
Pirates.
Candelaria,
we are family.
Yeah. Colby. Another one I watched last night, and I know Dan was all over this guy, is Lawrence Butler of the A's hit a grand slam. I mean, don't call him Larry. Don't call him Larry, guys, but call him Lawrence. I mean, do you think this guy has potential to be like an all-star and have like 40 home runs? I mean,
yes, I do. He's got a ton of talent. I love the A's are so much fun. Like
I think they are too. It's funny. They're sold out every game. Every game they're sold out.
Well, and
I love 500.
I love Soderstrom. He's been great, and he just got outfield eligibility. I mean, let's talk about Kurtz. So they brought him up.
Yeah,
he has obviously not been doing well. Can you guys talk about what you've seen?
Casey, go ahead.
I haven't been able to watch Oakland games. I'm a in bed too early kind of guy. I gotta admit that.
He goes to bed at 7:45 Eastern.
This is a 6'5" hulk of a man. That's a really big strike zone. And you're facing major league pitchers, not AAA or AA pitchers anymore. These are guys who have pinpoint accuracy and sinkers and sliders with either 12 to 18-inch vertical or horizontal movement on command. Like, it's just going to take him time to adjust. We know he's a good enough hitter, but it could take him a month or so to kind of adjust to, major league life where you're traveling all the way across the country one night to play the next day. Like, those are things you don't do in the minors. He struggled. And I think it would be foolish to not expect him to struggle for the first 2 to 3 weeks when he gets called up, especially because Soderstrom was doing so incredibly well at first base. And they're like, oh no, you have to move and make way for this guy. That's a lot of pressure. And so, yeah, I'm not surprised. I don't think his chase rate has gone up. Those are the things I look at. I didn't look at the numbers recently, but I remember reading that he's not chasing any more than he did in the minors. And that's a good sign that he's still staying patient.
Yeah. I mean, it's also only been 25 at bats. I
mean, it's barely a week. I mean,
now Jackson Holliday, on the other hand, might be proving not to be as good as anybody thought he was, because now we're at his second year in the majors,
right?
And he's still struggling.
And he's not playing every day now. They're kind of.
Would you play him every day the way he's playing?
No, but Baltimore has to make some changes. They're not. I'm telling you, we said it Tuesday. That manager is going to be fired, and that team could be. You'll see some people leave probably by All-Star break with some trades.
Yeah, the bloom is off the rose. I want to jump back though to this. I want to talk more about trade strategy, because I think this is part of the game within the game that people don't usually talk about. How you manage your trade relationships is really, really important. And by the way, I'm not perfect at this, and I can tell you because Ross is sitting right here with me, and he won't even deal with me. I think okay, it feels that way. So
no, because you pick a player up waivers and all of a sudden you want to trade him to me.
But no, see, that's what I'm saying. This is the narrative that you have about me, and I haven't done it. I haven't done that for like a year and a half.
Casey, do you want to?
I'm staying out of this one.
Casey,
Dan and I have a decent trade relationship, so that's fine. No, I think relationships. I think it's important early in a trade relationship to overpay. I think if it's kind of like if you go to the bar, and we're not encouraging drinking here, folks, before I say this, but if it's a crowded bar, you tip the bartender really big the first time you buy a drink. You give him a $20 tip on a $10 tab. And all of a sudden, when he sees you in a crowd, he's going to look at you first and be willing to deal with you first. And the same is true with other managers in your league. If you are trying to get somebody who is valuable, you got to overpay early on. And that builds up your credibility with that manager for years. It can last for years, where they trust your judgment on a player. They trust your sales pitch on deals better than if you are somebody who I'm going to try to get him for as little as I can with my first offer. To me, I
actually never want that.
The foot in the door. There's, two negotiating techniques we talk about: foot in the door and kind of door in the face, right? And so the foot in the door. Well, if you'll give me this, maybe you'll also give me that. And you start with this really kind of trying to win the trade by a landslide right out of the gate is a terrible strategy.
I agree. What's the door in the face one? Remind me.
Well, the door in the face is more for negotiating with like managers or in the workplace. It's like, okay, well, will you give me $1 million for this? Are you crazy? Right. No. Then all of a sudden, 600,000 sounds reasonable, even though
I see.
it's already overvalued at 600,000. You start way above. That's if you're trying to get overpaid. You start with, if somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, I want Aaron Judge," and you're like, "Well, it's going to cost you Vladimir Guerrero, Bobby Witt Jr., and Shohei Ohtani." Well, right. That's ridiculous. Okay, well, will you give me Bobby Witt and Vladimir Guerrero?
Right.
And all of a sudden, it's like, wow, that actually sounds reasonable.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I think it's important to think about the timing of when you're trying to trade people. If you tried to trade Pete Crow-Armstrong after a week and a half for Aaron Judge, well, maybe not Aaron Judge.
Aaron Judge is a bad example.
Okay, bad example.
But
so
Yordan Alvarez.
Yeah, good example. All right. So if you tried to do that a week and a half in, you're already losing credibility. You look like you're trying to pull one over on somebody. But if you wait 6 full weeks,
yeah.
See, Ross, I think by the All-Star break, it's totally cemented. Like if he's still doing this at the All-Star break, you're not even going to want to trade him.
Right.
But if you're at about 6 weeks, to me, that's the sweet spot when you can start to say, okay, you're going to take your bet as to whether this guy can keep going, and I'm going to take a bet that this player is going to rebound. Yordan Alvarez. I just had a trade negotiation. I tried to get Rafael Devers, and it wasn't because he had started to hit well the last week. He's the same guy to me. It doesn't matter. But I tried to get him, and it just so happened that at the time I tried to get him, Devers was hitting, and I didn't even know. Right. That he was hitting that well. I just was like, I need a third baseman. I believe in Rafael Devers not as a fielding third baseman, but as a fantasy third baseman. It doesn't matter when, to me, that you make that deal. But I think it's really important to think about the other guy in the deal, because so much of the time we're talking about, you should think about it this way. That's not going to get your trades done. You need to figure out how the other guy thinks about it. And that's why, Ross, I always laugh about this, because you have either you have ideas about me or you like to paint that picture of me on YouTube.
No, it's part of my strategy with you. I paint you as the bad guy, and then I swoop in and I trade with you.
And
that's the whole vision I do.
You've gotten me to be very, very careful on anything I'll offer you.
Yeah,
but there is a downside to that, because you don't hear as much from me. Like, I think it's really important in trades to pay attention to, what does this person think, and to have that dialogue. But it's a delicate thing, because if you bother somebody,
I mean, with trades is this. I mean, there's so many. Like, I'll give you an example. In one of our leagues we playing together, there's a huge Dodger fan we play with, and he values Dodgers too high. Like, he won't trade any of his Dodgers.
But that also can work to your advantage if you have.
That's why I have Teoscar Hernandez, and
you could
pretty well lately.
Well, yeah, he's what, the 5th or 6th ranked player in fantasy right now? What is
5th? Yes.
Yeah.
At least in our
for me, like, you got to know your audience. That's why I'm giving the example.
Yeah. And the other thing, one of the things,
I value Reds, but I'm not going to be jumping up and down about the Reds.
Yeah, and I'm the same way with the Yankees. But another thing that's important when it comes to trade strategy, and I don't think people understand this, that baseball as we've talked about how many times on this show, is a very long, grinding season. People think the secret to trades, excuse me, is to win them massively instead of incremental growth with each trade is still a win, right? So if you're just looking to increase in a category without sacrificing any other category, you don't have to make it look like the trade is a huge win for you for it to be a win. We can't hit a home run with every trade. We can't, get the Pete Crow-Armstrong as he's breaking out in the sense that he's then going to be a superstar for the rest of the year. If you can go from a struggling Jose Altuve, and I'm not saying he's struggling, but let's say he's struggling, to somebody who's playing as well as Jorge Polanco is right now, that's a huge win, even though it doesn't look like a huge win in the roster construction. Like, oh, you just got a second baseman who's hitting for a decent average and a little bit more pop. But everything's a little bit better. That's still a win. I don't need to go from Yordan Alvarez to Aaron Judge for it to be a win of a trade.
Yeah, and also, I mean, there's all kinds of places to get wins. I'll give you an example, though I'll be interested to hear if you guys think this was a win for me. But I've always said, pay attention to your waiver wire, see who's getting dropped. Because at a certain point, people get frustrated with players, or they just somehow overthink something. Well, did you see Christian Yelich got cut in our league? Now, full disclosure, it is a 10-team league. You're not going to see Christian Yelich get cut.
Oh, I didn't see that.
League. He got cut in our league. I picked him up
in the dynasty league.
Yes. And I mean, he's 32 years old or something like that.
It doesn't matter.
But still. So I bid $16 on him, and I think only 2 people saw this.
I didn't see it.
Yeah,
I didn't see it either.
So I snagged him, and see, that's a win in trades. I'm not going to now try to.
Now you're going to offer him to Ross.
No, because I never pick up anybody off of waivers and offer him to Ross ever.
Ross has Aaron Judge.
I want to get rid of that rep.
He gets hurt and he has
sure, but he's still better than somebody you have at the end of your bench.
No, but you know what? What I do instead is I've got Rooker. I've got Rooker on my team. I'll offer Rooker and then just slide Yelich into Rooker's spot if I can deal him. And that to me is a smarter deal than picking somebody off the wire and trying to deal to somebody. He was just out there. They would have picked him up if they wanted to.
Yeah.
No, but Rooker, you can't get.
I like both those players. I like Rooker and I like Yelich, obviously. But yeah, that's a good example why you pay attention every night. For some reason, I missed it. I don't know why. Probably talking to Casey. It's your fault. But yeah, I mean, that's a great example. I mean, getting Christian Yelich off the waiver wire is a good snag.
Yeah, I'm not sure why he got cut, but I was like, okay, I gotta get this guy.
People get frustrated. They look at his stats, they see where they drafted him, and they want to move on. I get it.
But his stats are good, and they've even been good lately. Yeah. It's weird. That's actually something I wanted to ask you. Is how did this happen? Here, I'll pull up his stats. He is batting .220, so that's not good. But
how many home runs?
5 homers, 14 runs, 23 RBIs, 6 stolen bases.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy's putting up great numbers at .220. As soon as he gets that average up, it's much higher. But who knows? Maybe somebody just saw that average and was like, I can't take this anymore.
No, it's weird. I don't get it. But oh well, we're game.
Yeah, I mean, and if I look at, let's see, in the last 14 days, now this is really interesting. Last 14 days, he's been hitting .289.
Yeah.
So what it tells me is that manager was just looking at the bottom line.
Somebody watched for a while him being cold and didn't pay attention that he was starting to warm up, and then they dropped him.
Right.
Well, then, the grass is always greener. I say that, especially in baseball, when you see another player that's on waivers that's hitting really well, and you want to drop, somebody, and you pick somebody that's batting .220. I get it, but we always warn people: don't drop these stars in April.
No, see, when I see somebody on the wire who I really first of all, I'm aware that I'm going to be drawn to lots and lots of people on the wire. There's all kinds of potentially really attractive players on the wire, and you got to factor in how many of those players can you bring in. There are teams that will unload like half of their roster to bring in these guys, and then realize that it was fool's gold. It's not what you had hoped it was going to be. So if you're going to do that, maybe do it with 1 or 2 roster spots. And then meanwhile, who do you cut? I'll give you a great example.
That's always what I struggle with. I see people I like on the waiver wire, and I'm like, but I don't want to cut this player.
Right. Well, this is why Casey and I, Ross, I think you agree with this too. We love 2-for-1 deals, because when you see something like that, you open up a roster spot and you get the best player and the roster spot.
No, so I agree. I'm always looking for 2-for-1 also. And there's so many people on waiver. We're like you mentioned, we're in a 10-person league. Like, I'll give you an example. I dropped Hicks, the pitcher for the Giants, and I picked up Brady Singer for the Reds.
Right, you know? Right. I mean, and we know this is a shallow league, but it's a shallow league. We made deeper benches, so it's still pretty good, and it's a dynasty league, or at least a keeper league. So don't judge it by the size of the league necessarily, but because it is a keeper league where we're keeping lots of minor league players, there are players like Brady Singer out there in our league. And to me, that, you know, there's always going to be interesting strategy no matter what the league is. I don't think we should be judging the leagues necessarily based on their size numbers. I think we should be judging it based on how does the player play within those rules. That to me is what's interesting, you know? So the fact that Brady Singer's sitting out there, that would make me all the more likely to be offering 2-for-1 deals to open up a spot so I can snag that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Now, meanwhile, I have Tyler Glass now, who's, you know, extremely irritating.
Yeah. Well, we all knew the over-under on him was, will he make it through the month of April without getting on the IR? And the answer is no.
The answer was no. Yes, it was close, but no.
There was no. I mean,
he hasn't even been pitching that well.
But Blake Snell is hurt. I mean, exactly what I mentioned about the Dodgers being the season is happening.
But that's why they have 9 starters.
9 times.
You've been absolutely.
But those 9 are some of them aren't that great. Like Knack and Miller and Kershaw hasn't pitched yet in the majors. You know,
but Gonsolin and Dustin May, and they can go everywhere.
Yeah, but I'm excited for Ohtani to pitch. I think he'll pitch sometime in May.
Yeah, that's going to be super exciting. And how has Ohtani even been doing at the plate? I know he's.
You know, it's funny. Everybody's talking about he's been struggling.
Yeah.
And he's the 8th ranked player in Roto.
He has 32 runs scored already. 7 homers,
average, 7 home runs, 9 stolen bases. So no, he's not on the 50-50 pace he was last year.
No, the guy's a phenom beast.
You know, they're saying, and I predicted he wouldn't do as well this year because once he starts focusing also on pitching, I think it's going to hurt his offense. But I can't deny even a bad year for him is a top 10 year for everybody else.
And I think one of the main things they're looking at, a lot of times people get focused on just one number. They're looking at the 10 RBIs. He's got 7 homers and only 10 RBIs. And they're just like, oh, what is that? But I will take those numbers any day.
He bats leadoff, so.
Yeah. I mean, and he's got 32 runs to show for it.
Right.
So, all right, let's switch gears for a bit. I want to talk about closers, because closers can be a huge headache for people. Who's your disastrous closer of the week? The closer that's just driving you crazy.
Well, I think Devin Williams as a Yankees fan is an easy call. He's been.
I was going to say him too. I mean, it's not even his job anymore. He's not the closer.
No, he lost it to Luke Weaver.
Luke.
You know, I think as a Guardians fan, you can mention Clase in the same way I can mention Devin Williams.
Oh, well, not only that, but I actually think Clase to me is even more, well, they're both worrisome in a different way, but to me, Clase is worrisome because I watched him in the playoffs and he was just batting practice.
Yeah.
Now in the playoffs, and I was watching a Guardian game recently, and it was the 9th inning, and they brought in somebody else to close the game.
I mean, if Mason Miller is not considered a top 2 or 3 closer in baseball right now, I don't think that person is very smart. How's that?
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, he's got twice as many strikeouts as innings pitched, so you guys know I love that. But you know what's funny?
He's also on a team that's basically like 500 right now. They're playing really well. I think Oakland's playing Oakland. I think Sacramento's playing great.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to give up.
Prove it, KCC.
Now, I mean, then there's other pitchers. I mean, to me, so Robert Suarez is the best closer in baseball from the Yahoo rankings.
Right.
He's pitched very, very well, and he has 12 saves. But I mean, this to me is why you never invest deeply in closers. I mean, look at the people who would have taken Devin Williams versus Robert Suarez, and look at what's happened so far. Is that going to keep up? Not necessarily, but is it not going to keep up? Not necessarily. We see this all the time. So what closer positions have switched? We just talked about Luke Weaver taking over in New York. Was there a change in Texas? Did I get that right?
Well, it was Luke Jackson. I think is it still his job, Casey?
Well, I don't know, because now this is the interesting thing. It's like there's actually so much
guys that get saves out of Texas.
Yeah, so I mean, you're just not able to invest them. So
somebody who's in doubt that might lose his job in closing is Iglesias in Atlanta. I mean, his ERA is over 5 or 6, and he only has 5 saves. And I know Atlanta has been playing that great lately, but they are going to play well. And if this guy's ERA is over 5 and he's their closer, he's not going to have that job much longer. So,
okay, but let me make a counter argument, because sometimes when I'm trying to evaluate this, I need to know what numbers to look at. This is where I love WHIP, walks and hits per innings pitched. To me, Iglesias should not really be in danger of losing his job. He's got a 1.09 WHIP.
Yeah,
that means
he just gives up big flies when he gives up a fly ball.
He's just, I think
he'd fly far.
He's either been a bit unlucky, or he's just got bit by the home run bug for a bit.
I wouldn't want my closer to have any ERA that high.
I don't either, but I'm just saying there's a difference between Clase and Williams, where their whips are terrible at the same time. If I had to bet on one of those three to hold their job, it would be Iglesias.
In Texas, I mean, Luke Jackson has gotten 2 saves in the past 2 weeks, but his ERA is 15.
Not bad.
It looks like Robert Garcia is the guy they might be leaning towards, because he's gone, 7 appearances in the last 2 weeks with a save, and his ERA and WHIP are both 1.69 and 0.94. So
yeah. All right, let's shift gears. Let's talk about some starting pitching. Who are you seeing that is either rounding into form or surprising you? I mean,
Yamamoto for the Dodgers is just having a great year. He's my pick to win the Cy Young over Wheeler and over Skis. I think Yamamoto is going to be the best pitcher in the National League this year, and he's showing it already.
I mean, there are a lot of pitchers though that can do it. Hunter Green's one of them.
Yeah, I was going to say Hunter Brown. What about Hunter
Brown? Last start, Haney got beaten up last start. I mean, I love Hunter, but I just think that he'll have some rough games when he'll give up the long ball.
Yeah.
It just for me, just seeing Yamamoto pitch, because I live in LA, his stuff is like he's like unhittable.
I want to see Hunter Green win the NL Cy Young while Hunter Brown wins the AL Cy Young.
And we'll see who's the best hunter. What about somebody like
with a color name?
And I want to see Riley Green win the MVP. And I want to see who else can we have?
Is there
other color names?
Vida Blue.
Yep, that was from a long time ago. But the A's. When I look,
then you have guys like Nick Pivetta, who's been insane for San Diego.
He's been great.
Tyler Mahle for Texas.
Mahle's going to hold on with Tyler Mahle. He used to be a Red. He is pitching so over his head, and he's going to adjust.
What about Nathan Eovaldi? He's the 4th ranked pitcher.
I know. Wait till after May. Tell me, we can talk then.
So I'm not saying, Casey, you thought one way about this and Ross did. I agree with Ross on this, though, that when you've seen the kind of track record that Tyler Mahle has, or that Eovaldi has, it can happen. There are pitchers that just round into form in ways that they never had. Maybe they clicked with a pitching coach or something like that. But to me, that's far more rare than, somebody like, well, I don't know, Nick Pivetta. He's been just a journeyman kind of guy.
He's been lights out, man. He's been great.
But he's been great. For some reason, I believe in his ability to keep it going. Maybe it's because he's in San Diego. I don't know.
What do you think of Jesus Luzardo in Philadelphia? I mean, this guy was a top prospect.
Oh, I totally believe in Luzardo. I don't know that he'll keep it up quite like this, but I would love to be buying into Luzardo right now. What about you, Case?
Oh no, I'm a big fan of him. The one I'm unsure of is Tyler McGill in New York for the Mets, whether he can keep up what he's doing, because the whole Mets team right now is playing inspired baseball. And I don't know if he's part of that wave that's going to eventually crash or if he's figured it out, because he's always been a reliable mid-rotation guy, 3-4 starter, but he's pitching like a 2 right now without question.
You know who's pitching horribly, and Casey, you and I both like him, is Zach Gallen of Milk. I mean, Zach Gallen has been horrible.
Ross, we love Gallen, but he's been terrible.
He pitches tonight.
I mean, he's just been – I mean, I root for him. I like him. But this season for him has just been a disaster. I mean, talking about the disaster, I mean, I know people that are waving him because they can't watch him pitch anymore.
Well, let me ask this. Speaking of waving people, Logan Gilbert, he's got an elbow strain. How long is he going to be out? When I hear an elbow or something, it's just like, oh God.
But I guess it depends how many IL spots. I'm never dropping him if I have the IL space for him, because we know what he can do when healthy.
Sure.
But if you hear we're shutting him down for 8 weeks and then we're going to reevaluate, then in a redraft league, it's almost like droppable.
Drop.
Yep.
Unless you can hold him, unless you have the spots, I mean,
if you have the spots, you got to evaluate the upside, and then at a certain point, it's also about like what point in the season it is. Like if you're looking at holding a guy like Logan Gilbert right now versus a guy who's Yuri Perez. Yuri Perez is actually on the upswing. So, like, would you rather have Yuri Perez in the IL spot or Logan Gilbert right now?
I'd rather have Logan Gilbert, to be honest, because
I would too. But
because Yuri Perez, we've seen what happens to pitchers when they first come off and start playing after Tommy John.
Yep,
they're wild with their control and command, and they can get lit up until it could take them a couple months to figure that out. Whereas Logan Gilbert, if he's not having that surgery, he's going to come back and I think perform better.
I agree with that. Also, I mean, like you try throwing with a leg ligament in your arm, like that's got to be.
Well, now they do that bracing surgery. I'm not sure what the difference is.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to make the joke, but I mean, I also would rather have Logan Gilbert, because as talented as Yuri Perez is, we haven't really seen him put it together at all.
No,
we have seen Gilbert.
Remember, like the first season, he was on like inning count, like 80 innings or something.
I'm surprised they let him do 80 innings.
And then they shut it down for the season.
Now you're surprised.
In August, he was like shut down, and
probably not now.
He had him on his roster in case he's like asking me when he's going to pitch again. I say he's not. He's shut down.
Yep.
And then we had to get Casey counseling and the whole thing.
I have a therapy session in a few minutes. I'm still trying to deal with it.
All right. Well, I'm going to help you out here, Casey, because whenever you're feeling down, you talk about prospects. So let's talk about who are the prospects that are either going to come up soon or that you need to get on your radar soon, or you're going to miss out.
One that nobody was talking about, including myself, preseason, was a catching prospect in Chicago for the Cubs, Moises Ballesteros. He's at AAA right now. He's only striking out 11% of the time, and he's never struck out more than 20%, which is a really low number, guys, across any of his 5 minor league seasons. In the past 11 games, a 400 average with over a 1,000 OPS, and all the underlying metrics. The problem is, where is he going to play for the Cubs? They have, Carson Kelly doing his best Yogi Berra interpretation right now and then Miguel Amaya is another good catcher for them. So do they put him at first base? But at first base, they have Michael Busch, who's doing relatively well. He can't play anyplace else. So that's somebody who should be up, but he might just be blocked. Bubba Chandler, pitcher for the Pirates.
He'll be good in 3 years for someone else.
Love the name Bubba.
Right. But he's still going to get a chance.
Sure.
I hope it's very soon, because he's that good. Roman Anthony of the Red Sox, #1 prospect in baseball.
Roman Anthony, and every
again, he's blocked. But 962 OPS, 21 walks to 23 strikeouts this year in the minors. That's crazy. If you see Wilyer Abreu or any of the outfielders struggle, I don't think anybody has a long leash there. Jordan Lawler of the Diamondbacks, shortstop, the same way, crushing it in the minors with 6 home runs, 12 stolen bases, and a 381 average. Gerardo Perdomo is playing well right now, but he's not the long-term answer at short. Lawler is. Marte is sidelined with an injury, but he's on the verge of returning. Suarez, who knows what you're going to get from him, a prolonged cold streak, so there might be opportunities for Lawler there.
Hey, let's pause for a second and talk about Suarez's 4 home run game. Did you guys see that?
Yes, it was impressive.
I mean, he broke a bunch of records too. He's a strange fantasy player. I mean, I remember last season, the first half, he was horrible.
He's always horrible in the first half.
And no, he's not. Then you look at his stats, he's like always around 100 RBIs, and he always has.
No. I'm not saying he's always horrible. I'm saying he's always horrible in the first 2 months. It's just
it really is. But you know what? I don't know what they were thinking pitching to him after his 3rd home run. I don't know why they're giving him something to hit, but I guess they.
Yeah, in his first at bat, the next game, he walked.
I bet.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he wasn't hit by a pitch.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what I have no idea what the team was thinking pitching to him with. After the 2nd home run, I would have pitched to him.
Do you know how many major leaguers have hit 4 home runs in a game?
KC? 6.
3.
No, it's actually 19.
Wow.
In the history of baseball, 19 people have done it. I remember watching one of those when I was a kid. It was Bob Horner, and I was completely shocked by this. Bob Horner hit 4 home runs in a game, and do you know what his total homers were for the entire season? 17.
6.
Yeah. Now, hard-hitting Mark Whitten, did he hit 3 or 4 on opening day for the Cubs back in the mid-90s?
It was 4, I think.
Opening day, I remember because we were in the middle. I was signed up to do a draft. Like this was an in-person draft for a long-term league I was in back then, and like he became the first pick of the draft because of that day 1, and he was terrible the rest of the year. It was,
of course, that is hilarious.
It happened the day before the draft, so the guy who's picking first was like, "I'm taking Mark Whitten.
I'm taking my 4 homers,"
and we're like, "Oh God."
He got 10 for the year.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Well, that will happen, guys. But yeah, I mean, when a guy hits 4 home runs, it's amazing.
Well, Suarez is Schwarber-like in terms of his streakiness. Like he goes through periods where it looks like the baseball looks like a beach ball to him, and then there are other times where it looks like it's a wiffle ball.
Right.
And he's flailing wildly at these pitches.
But the thing I do like about both players is they're pretty predictable in terms of the timing. So again, I mean, this season's been weird because Schwarber started off quite well. And now I think he's in a cold streak like usual, and you can get back to him later, but you're going to have to pay more for him than you usually would. Suarez, he has 10 homers already, so it's not like you're going to get him for super cheap. But I have him on my bench. Like the greatest place to have Suarez right now is on your bench.
No, you start him, or you trade him.
All right, guys. Before we wrap up,
you put him on your bench until
I just received a trade offer in a.
Ooh, let's hear it.
A league I'm in. I'm being offered Cade Smith, Spencer Torkelson, and Hunter Green.
Hunter Green
for Notre Jacob DeGrom and Lawrence. Don't call me Larry Butler.
Ooh,
you get Larry Butler?
No, I get Green, Torkelson, and Smith.
I don't like giving up.
I would
Lawrence
keep Larry Butler, and I would keep
I mean, Cade Smith really he's closing right now for the Guardians, but is he the long-term guy there?
No, it's Class A. He'll get his job back.
I do think Class A will get his job back.
Dr. Dan Ratner, a few sessions mentally with Dr. Dan Ratner, he'll be back.
I'll get him right. I would not take that because of the Lawrence Butler part. As you were starting to tell me, I was like, ooh, this sounds good. Even with the DeGrom part, I was like, that's totally fine.
Well, Hunter Green for DeGrom is a win for me, I think.
Oh, for sure.
But
especially just from a health perspective.
Under over of him going on the DL is May 15th.
Yep, I think that's about right.
Now, my other outfielders in that league are not very exciting. It's like Luis Robert or Robert Jr., Randy Arozarena, Jung-Hoo Lee, who's been great.
That's me. Yeah.
You would drop who, Ross?
Robert.
Oh, yeah. He's been
pretty bad.
I mean, there's so much hype on this guy. He's the next Ricky Henderson. No, he's not. He's the next guy I'm going to wave off.
Ricky Henderson is the greatest of all time. He told me.
There is no next Ricky Henderson, ever. I mean, oh, man, I loved watching Ricky play. All right, guys, we're going to wrap up in a second, but anything else that you want to let the viewers know in terms of what to be thinking about at this time in the season? I'll just put out one, which is like, you got to remember, you're going to want to like stop making the effort. Make the effort. You got to really push through in baseball more than anything else.
You experience burnout, so
push
through the burnout.
I get lazy. I don't want to make offers for trades, but I'm going to get off my high horse. I'm going to start making trade offers.
I like to hear it, Ross.
I mean, you just get, you know what it is? It's just like you do the effort of making the trade and they're saying, oh, this is a shitty trade. I'm not going to do this.
Yeah, my issue is weekends, Saturdays and Sundays, because I have kids involved in activities all over the place. I don't always check my lineup every day, and I'll look and I'll be like, oh, that pitcher pitched awesome, and he was still on my bench because I didn't go.
Checking the lineup on daily leagues, it's tough.
On Thursdays, I set my pitching rotation for the whole weekend.
Yep, that's great.
So that's my strategy.
That's a good. That's good.
It takes some real discipline in daily baseball leagues. So we're with you, but we'll keep the information coming. Ross and Casey do a waiver wire show on Tuesdays. That's 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. And we'll be back here for the strategy show on Thursdays, same time, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. Casey and Ross, it's been a pleasure, and we will look forward to another great week of baseball ahead.